Hello and welcome to November FMDiSC. Okay, my name is Matt Navarre. We've got some stuff up on the agenda today. The first thing I'm going to be doing is going over some practical examples, thing that I call Buttonize it. So AI widgets, features, whatever you want to call it, that are like a page of code, easy to understand, and they're something that you should be able to drop in and implement right away. That's kind of the goal. So I've got like maybe 20 or more of these things kind of in the hopper that I've been working with. And I'm going to be building a library of more of them. So let's see. Then we've got a little summary video that I made this morning with Joris and Johan about the conference that just happened in Antwerp. And then Breakout, and then let's see. Then Chris is going to do his awesome summary. And then we'll have an interview, which is going to be fun, or conversation. Bob and Elizabeth, the Bob and Elizabeth show. Let's see. I think that's it for the agenda. If there's something I'm forgetting, that would be bad. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. So while I'm doing the screen sharing of this, if there's any questions about any part of it, definitely just chime in and ask questions. Let's see. I've got to minimize all the... Unfortunately, that's... Okay, I think I'm gonna have to share my whole screen. I tried to share a portion of the screen, but it doesn't seem to work that well. Okay, so is this resolution okay? Or should I change my resolution?
Looks good
We
to
don't
me.
see the
Looks
screen.
good.
Not too bad.
Okay, I'll make it a little easier to read because this is definitely more real estate than I think I need. Displays, this one. Okay, so here's the 10 things I'm going to show. Translation, searching, thing that I, for lack of a better name, call enriching. We can kind of go, you can read the list, but we're just going to go through them one at a time. So the first one is just sort of like almost a hello world for anyone who hasn't really done AI stuff yet. And it's a very simple one to drop in. So let's see, I think I put it in notes. So if you go to any note, this is just some sample text from AI generated text for something. And then you can choose a language and then click translate. And then it will change it to that language. So, but of course, this is no big deal. You can copy and paste this text into ChatGPT or whatever. But this is integrated directly in. And you can add whatever language you want. So if you want to, like if someone in your database needs to add, I don't know, I actually put an ancient Greek there just to be silly, and that actually works. I don't know, let's see, how about French? So yeah, no pre-thought, you just kind of put it in. It's actually kind of amazing, actually even going around the loop. But to show a little bit more about it, here's the whole script. So the prompt system, this is, I think, what's really important. So if your database is in a specific industry or type or uses certain terms or whatever, you can basically put that in here, which makes it, I think, much better than just copy and pasting the ChatGPT and get a generic translation. So the system prompt is going to be something we're going to see kind of a lot. And then user prompt, translate this text, and then a super simple generate response from model. That's it for that one, right? Any questions on that? Maybe not. This is kind of a hello world. Okay. Second, semantic search came out quite a while ago in FileMaker, so it's not really that exciting of a thing. Hey, Saul, I made you a co-host. Can you let people in when they come in? Just click admit all.
You got it.
Thanks. So, what I have here is I have a sample database of like, well, I guess 1,500 people. And the built-in semantic search works quite well when you just use, I think it's text embedding 3 small. Yeah, I think it's using an OpenAI model for this one now. So if you do a search for like Jacob Jones, well, I'll get rid of the typo for the moment. It'll do the search on the names, and then it will give you the probability, not really a probability, but the cosine similarity score. And it does a pretty good job at coming up with the names. Right, so if I put in like my name spelled wrong, it still shows me as the top link, and it has some other ones in here. But then there's some other names that maybe should be on this list that aren't. Also, if I put an exact spelling, well, that is not the exact spelling. But I don't uppercase it. It's actually not high or not 100%. Wow, it should be a lot more than 68 though. Yeah, so that's very odd. It should be basically 1. So this is kind of the embedding screen. We're going to look at this one in an upcoming one, but I can re-embed the name. So if I'd like changed my spelling or something like that, I re-embed it, and then the search is going to run against the updated. So using this method, you would need to think about embedding. And this is obviously very little code. I don't know, is there anyone here who has not played with semantic search yet? I was quite surprised how good of a job it does on just names. It's such a small amount of data, but you get really, really good results. Oh, that's generative model. So the embedding model is text embedding 3 small. And then, yeah, I just have some metadata stuff. We'll look at that. The same script is going to be used for the other thing, for the other second part of this. So it just performs semantic find, and then run it. Okay, so there we go. So that actually came with 1. So I think my name was not embedded right. This is Matt Navarre or something like it. This is actually a really good example we're looking at here, right? So this is Ukrainian. This is not anything close to Matt Navarre, but it's like the NAP is kind of there. And then that's Matt Navarre, Mateos Navarre in Greek. And then we get some other ones here. But then it kind of like drops off a little bit. Okay, the next thing that I want to show is this, what I call enriching names. So right back to that name screen. Just pick it doesn't really matter which one. So this list here, this is the list of names that is similar. Basically, it's like reinterpreting this name and saying, if someone was searching for this person, what other names could they maybe be typing, right? So this does a generative AI call and comes up with some names. This means, by the way, being generative AI, every single time you run it, you're going to get different names. And sometimes, but it's really, even though they're different, they're not that different. And so you're going to get pretty good results without having to kind of redo it, right? So I just did it like a couple times in a row, and the first 5 or 6 names were identical. Anyway, so that's so part 1 of it is to take this name, and let's take a look at the code that does that. Another 1-page of script. This is it, right? You generate realistic names for use in the semantic search. This is what I want you to do. Transliterate, return plain text. And then again, you would customize this for whatever your database is trying to do. And then so it's just coming back with a list of those names. Then you embed that list, right? So this is kind of the next. So after we enrich the name, now we're going to go to embedding the enriched name. So after I generate the list, let's see. Then I embed the original name and I embed the list of names. So in this particular example, I've got 2 embed fields to do an A and B test, right? So if I go back, I've got my second version of this layout. And so if I do my Navarre search like so, I get these names. And it's going to be the same every time I do it, right? Because this is straight up deterministic. Was it not the same? Wow, okay, interesting. Anyway, so that's something's going on with the code. It should actually be the same every time because it's not it's just when you run a semantic find, it should be the same every time. I think it's probably because I'm re-embedding it and I'm using, what am I trying to say? Anyway, I'm re-embedding it. But let's take a look at this part B here. So if I put this name over here and do the search using the embedded search, the results I get are, I think, kind of amazing. So first of all, the top name is the top name, but all these other ones are a much, much better match than you could get with one name. And this is because rather than just searching on Matt Navarre to Matt Navarre, it's searching on, and it's running that same algorithm on the name that you type in. So to go through this code, so I choose the model. Let's see. So we're using GPT-4.1 Nano. And then, okay, so enriched is true in this script. So it's going to put the prompt in, and then it's going to generate here the enriched prompt. That's what it's supposed to do. And then response. This is then what it's putting in. So some of the stuff I wouldn't really want. So in other words, I would want to modify my query, my system prompt to not return stuff like that. So, but anyway, it takes my my query and it runs the AI call on it. Then it embeds that, and then it runs the embed to embed on the set of names. I don't know. I might not be explaining it very well, but I don't know. What do you guys think about this?
It's a great demo.
Is anyone else using something like this? I don't want crickets. Crickets are no fun for anyone. So here you can kind of see the A and B. Right, so usually like the top name is going to match. That's actually fairly good, but using this method, it's the best quality name search I've ever been able to find in FileMaker. So if you have a list of names, especially if they're multilingual, this is pretty amazing. So if I go to Greek, right? So I spelled my name wrong, but anyway, this is like I typed in Greek and I still get mad because that's what this is. So multilingual, and that's probably, I'm not really sure what that is. Okay, so that's that part. I don't know. I'd like to get some more feedback on where we are so far before I plow on.
Well, I don't know if you heard me, but I said this is one of my favorite demos. I like it.
Okay, good. But I want to hear from other people too.
Okay, I've basically used LLMs to kind of manipulate the search results, but I've not thought of doing that, and that's really cool. I like that. That's yeah, I wouldn't have thought of doing that approach, but looks really good.
Yeah, wow, that's great feedback, Ian. Geez. Okay. I think I can quit right there if Ian says my AI approach is good. Okay, so the next basic one is one we've probably seen, a pretty straightforward one. But again, the whole point of this is these are things that you can implement that are really standard use cases that don't require a lot of planning. Because what I've found in talking to a lot of partners is they don't have any AI actually in production, not even small things like this. All of our customers are asking for it. All of the people who work at those organizations want to put it in, but they don't know what to do. So what I'm trying to come up with is some really, really basic use cases like these that can just be dropped in and work. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. So this is like a thank you letter. So if I have an email like this, a customer, and they have all these invoices that they have, and I want to thank them for their latest order, there's stuff I could do. Let's actually pick a different one. On my data here, I have some like random, I didn't really have a way to describe these, so now I'm actually using an AI call to take a look at what's actually on here. So like maybe one vehicle and maybe like 10 cameras or something like that. So I have this write description. So this is kind of one part. This basically looks at all the line items and then writes a description of what it is. So you have a single line that describes an invoice using kind of what's the important thing on there first. Because it's really hard to kind of, if you have an invoice with a bunch of line items, to have something that describes it that's not super involved, right? So that's kind of part one. Part two is, let's see, if we go back to the organization. Yeah, well, first of all, I'm going to kind of run this on each of the lines so I don't just get general merchandise. So if I say write thank you email, we can take a look at this. So maybe I don't like the way this is worded all that much, but it's more informal, right? If you have any questions, we're here to help, So, because the goal here again is to actually be able to control how I want this text to look and to save me some time in having to write an email. This might be kind of a better example. Like signature, actually the description doesn't match that at all, so that's not really a good example. But let's take a look at the code that does that. Okay. And then the data that drives it, because that's another important thing that I definitely want to talk about. Yeah, this is only really a few lines of code. So you write thank you emails, do this, don't do that. Here's a sample of code I want you to write. So it kind of knows the tone and the method, right? Write a letter, here's the text. And then, so sample, the two things that I think I'm doing now as a FileMaker developer is I'm getting really good at writing system prompts. Well, I'm getting better at writing system prompts anyway. And I'm also finding out really good ways to get data in a structured way to the model. And so I've used this thing called JSON LD. This is a part of a lot of the stuff that we're using. So this represents the whole account, the organization, with all of their invoices and all the line items. All right, so this particular one has 2 line items. If I go to the organization and to JSON LD, I can't really scroll on this that well. Yeah, it's hard to see. Yeah, this is not really helping that way. But anyway, so this JSON has the structure in it for the top level organization, the invoices, and the stuff within it. So and the line items within it. So what we can see here is metadata. So I've got what type of data is this? And then I've got a really long name and a value pair for every single bit of data. And I'm using, for each table I have the type. So there's other ways that you can kind of get this, right? So some of the built-in FileMaker features will actually take a look at the field name and the field description, right? The notes you can put in, and use that to send along with the data in the field. So this one I like, and I like also the ability to control it. And it's actually using just an unstored calculated field. So I'll take a brief look at it because it kind of drives stuff. So in product info, this is the code to do it. A JSON set element, and it just grabs, it puts the name that you like, that makes it clear, makes the AI model do a good job with it. And then just grabs whatever data that you want. So if you want to add a field, delete a field, whatever, it doesn't have to use all of them. Then one step above that, so here's invoice line items. I guess this is kind of the base in this demo. Another one I actually have, the invoice line looks actually through to the product and gets more information. The parent of invoice line is invoice. And here's where we see the difference. So in addition to getting the information like the invoice date and the invoice amount in US dollars, I also am using this function, a make array of a list of JSON. So this is kind of a connection of three important tools that makes this possible. There may be a better way to do that. If there is, I'd love to know. This was the easiest way I was able to find. So it's just using a basic list function and using the JSON make array, and then getting that as JSON raw. And then and that gives me the hierarchical structure. And then one level up from there is the organization. And that does the exact same thing. But this one just looks at the invoices, which includes the line items. So this will stack any level depth that you want. And this is a fairly simple example of it. And later when I go through some more things, I can show you another version of that. I have a ton more control of how that works. Okay. And yeah, again, so giving it all that data is really, really what makes you get a good response. Next is, okay, getting the results of something, not in just plain text, but actually getting a structured JSON response back that you can then use to create records. This is something I actually have in production in one of my personal databases that I used to learn Greek. So to kind of show how this works, if I create a new record here, I'm going to put a word in, a verb in, let's see, how about to think, right? So I'll put a verb and then I have translate, which makes an AI call that says, hey, go look at this word, and then go translate it to Greek. And now I have what that word is in Greek, right? I should probably pick a simpler one, but anyway. Well, I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter because it's in Greek. Most people can't read it. So then what I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to conjugate this to the different forms. So this script here that I just ran sends the verb form, the stem, and it creates the conjugated forms. And then within each of these, I have another call that says, oh, take this I form and then write the different tenses, right? Present, past, simple past, etc. And so I can kind of practice and learn how to use these in a sentence, and then it just kind of gives me some sample sentences. So I think the lesson here is basically that you can use this method to create data in a really easy way, to like interpret data and or create data, because you're getting a response back in JSON. And while it is probabilistic, it's Tony, I think it's actually pretty solid. This has been definitely really, really good. So let's take a look at kind of how the code runs. Let me think of another, how about like to run. Okay, Trejo. So you're a Greek engine. I should go this way. I'll take a look at the code from, we'll look at the script after I kind of go through the debugger. So this is what you do, get response from model. Now the response that you're going to get here is going to be JSON because of the way I asked for the prompt, right? So this is just straight up JSON. And it's always in the same format. And then I can interpret that JSON in this really, really elegant script that I'm sure I could have done in a loop. That just says, oh, okay, well, go grab the first form of that. This is the I form, then the you form, the he, she, it form, the we form, the y'all form, and the they form. So those are the 6 conjugations. And it created 6 records. So kind of some other uses I've had for that, another one I have in production for a client, is they copy and paste text in to a database, like on a notes field. So they'll have like I don't know if I have a good example of it in here. They have like a notes field, and they'll copy and paste in some information there that's from that a customer sends. And in that text will be a case number and maybe a product number, something like that. And those are fields that exist right here on the layout. So when you just copy and paste the text in, and we have things that can do the formatting, but what you would do in this case, it would be a very, very simple process, is you would read that code and say, oh, is there anything that super clearly is an industry, a date, a case number? Then go ahead and just populate those fields and to save you the time of going through here and double clicking, and doing that. All right, anybody find that useful?
Yeah, this is awesome.
Good.
Yeah, that looks useful to me, Matt, and a really good example where things can be very close to deterministic. That said, just to kind of give you an interesting comment, I'm looking up synonyms for think, believe, consider, guess, and feel.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know how things translate from one language to another. And just finally, congratulations on learning Greek. It doesn't look particularly easy.
It's not, and I'm not very good at it, but I still try.
Yeah, I got a whole different alphabet and everything. All right.
Well, half the
stuff.
alphabet's different. The other half, and there's a huge number of words, like 1,500 or more words are the same in English and Greek. They're just pronounced differently.
Oh, cool.
So much of Greek made it into English that helps a lot.
Oh, that's good to know. All right, maybe I'll pick it up. Thanks.
So let's see the next one.
Matt, can I ask you something?
Yes.
To obtain the structure JSON, always the same in the same format. How do you get that?
I think I skipped past that in the code, and I think I said I was going to actually look at it too. So thanks for bringing me back to that. So system prompt, super important, right? So you're a precise Greek morphology engine. Do this, do that, don't do this. There are 5 different type values of a verb in Greek. Alpha, Vita 1, and Vita 2, Gamma 1, and Gamma 2. And so I get that response back, and those have different forms. So what I'm doing is I'm giving it a very specific schema in JSON that I want to return it in. And this is what enabled me to get that very reliable response.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
So I just have a new client, and they, excuse me, they need to get a whole bunch of contact data, either out of an email, or we're going to scan a whole bunch of business cards.
Yep.
And I was thinking, this is exactly it, but I couldn't figure out how to get, ChatGPT comes back with a different answer every time I copy and paste, slightly different, right? For the field names or organization or something. So I guess this is exactly what I need to do then, right?
I
Tell it
would
what I
hope. I
want
think
back.
it's on all of these things, I would say try it, play with it. Most of my day in prepping for the classes I teach is thinking about stuff like this and trying to come up with something that's a page of code that's easy to understand and kind of distill it down so that it's easy for others in the community to use. And then, so teaching classes, there was 25 people in the class I taught in Antwerp, which was amazing. It was super fun. I showed all of this stuff, and I showed a lot more on how to get to it. And then I'm also doing one-on-one. So if you've got some stuff that you want to do to take any of this code or all the other stuff that I've been working on, to put it in, because I hate that there's not more live AI in use, making our customers' lives better. Okay, image description. Okay, this one was really, really fun. So base64 encoding, I think is in, yeah, images table. So I'll just kind of randomly go in here. So I have a data set here that's Native American artwork, and there's some other stuff in here. So yeah, pick one. I'll just grab this one here, right? So all I know about it from the client was this. And what I want to know is, what is it? So I click write description. We'll take a look at that code. And it sends the image. And again, there's a system prompt. The system prompt says, you're a Native American, you're a gallery that sells this kind of art. Write a description. Okay. And if we can just kind of read the description, it's kind of shockingly good. It can really read a lot about it. It knows it's going to be getting Native American art. Of course, there's also a really good photograph. And this can do a web search, right? So the tool use here, I'm using the responses model from OpenAI, which is great. The tool use can do a lot for images. So I don't know, I put a bunch of other images in here of things that are not artwork like that, like this one, for example. And it'll do things like read the expression and the background and the colors and, the age of the person and things like that. Okay, you've probably seen demos, if not played with yourself, the feature to do a semantic search on images using like the Cohere model. Yeah, so like look at the description here, right? Background's a little out of focus, ground in grass, mouth, This is great, I love this, right? So if I just embed the image with the Cohere model, then I get this result. But I can also embed this text that I just created from a generative AI call and embed that to generative. Okay, so now if I go, I think that's the next one on my list, 10 things. Yes, this is kind of all one thing, right? Create an image description is part one, because that's actually super useful just by itself. Actually, before I continue, let's take a look at that code. And then we're going to take a look at the A and B of the embedding feature and search, just like we saw kind of before. But first, before we do that, let's take a look at the embed, or the description. Okay, I'll look at the code this way. Again, page of code. So in this one, I'm using GPT-5 Mini, and I'm using the responses model. This one, I wasn't able to use there actually is a tool in the default or the new FileMaker get response from model script step, but I wasn't able to get it to work the way I wanted. So I just went back to insert from URL. Send the key, base64 encode the image, describe the artwork. Here's the system prompt, very, very simple. Oh, and I see what's going on with that one. Right, so this is use of that, doing multiple things at once, right? It can actually cite websites using two different spellings of the word site. Then grabs the data. So this is the standard thing you'd expect for an API call. This was a lot of back and forth in AI to get this to work, right? So all of these things, I use AI a lot to actually get the code to work, because the responses model gives you very different output and also expects different input. It did away with things like temperature, and it renamed things for tokens. So it uses input and output tokens. It introduced the concept of effort, reasoning effort, which wasn't in the for. And every provider, every endpoint is going to have different things like that. And then also it uses different names for the data that's coming in. So generate that, do a insert from URL, and then the result that I get back is that text. So this will be interesting in a black and white image. Okay, so now after we do this, let's go take a look and see what we get using the two different embedding methods. So embedding just the direct image and embedding the text description created from reading the image. I just kind of love reading the description because it's just so good. Soft, even lighting, shallow depth of field. I mean, really, it's great. Okay, so anyway, embed that. Then if I go to my image list, and this one I'm using the same global fields here. So these are cheating. This one does a search on the embedded image, and this one uses the description. So if I search for something like knife, did that actually work? It did not work. You know what? I think, aha, okay, so that one did work. I think this one did too. Yeah, okay. It took a couple tries. Sometimes embedding does that, I think. Yeah, okay, so this was a semantic search on knife, and this is the one that came up, which is not a knife. Let's try something like green hat, right? So semantic search on images just doesn't know. Like if you embed, it thought this was a green hat. And maybe that's because there's green in it. Actually, in this particular one, I don't have an image description calculated. I have a spinning beach ball here for a second. Okay, spinning beach ball's gone. So whereas if I do the search on the description, even with a typo, spinning beach ball. Spinning beach
Hey Matt, for me,
yes.
your video is way behind your voice.
Oh, okay, so that's what's going on. I'm also getting a really long delay in running the query. So I have a spinning beach ball right now just to do this basic call. So I may
It seems in sync here. I don't know, maybe take a survey. Matt, I'm seeing you type green hat with a typo, and your actions line up with your words, the visuals and the audio.
Okay. So now you're seeing the list of records with
Yep. Just as of a nanosecond ago.
Yeah. It took a little bit, right? But anyway, doing it this way, it actually comes up correctly, right? It gives you really what you would expect to see, because it's using text, embedding text, which is much less magic because you can actually see, like when you do a search with the embedded image, you don't know. I have no idea what the black box is. I just know that it gives me good results or not. And I've yet to find a set of images that I really like the results. Whereas this way, let's see, let's try like surprise kid. That one came up immediately. And this is not even in the ballpark, right? So nonetheless, this is what it tried to find. Okay, so that's kind of it for that demo. Same basic idea as the other one. Look at the code. much less code even. So I'm using a Cohere embed v4. That's a text model. And, oh, you know what? That's actually text or image model, because embed 3 English, I think, is the text one. So I'm basically embedding the text that I type in, because in this one, when you're searching on an embed, oh wait, I'm stating this one wrong. I embedded it just because I wanted to see the score, but I'm searching against a text field, so I could use query by natural language instead of vector data. But if you do a search by vector data, you're going to get a better result. So I should really be searching on vector data and then have my target field, that's still embed text, be vector is $embed, which it is, because that's now embedded. Yeah, so query from vector data embed. Let's see if that actually works, right? Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. And semantic search is determinative. You're going to get the same results every time because it's searching against embedded data in your table. So that's what's important there. Okay, getting towards the end. These two are kind of the bigger ones, right? So everything I've shown so far is really a pretty quick integration. You know, the JSON LD part might be a little bit of work, but it's all fairly straightforward. Okay, so let's kind of up the game a bit, right? So I've got this one here. Ask a project. I think I've got, this is in my other database. Okay, so I've got this sample project. It has tasks that have projected hours, how far it's done, whether it's complete, when it was due, and then each task also has people who are associated with it. And, you know, pretty standard project management type stuff. So if I don't want to use JSON LD, I can use this, like a really simple looping script that just took me a very small amount of time to write. That goes to all of the tasks for the project and then loops through them one at a time and then writes information to a variable about that task. So variable line, let's let this run. We'll take a look at the code. So each line is the name of the task, the status, the description, blah, blah, blah. So really standard FileMaker code. You know, make a line for each assignment. And then what we get out of that is this, right? A very simple text block that lists all of the tasks on it with all of the information about it. And I also have the exact same project just with the JSON LD calculation. It's the same exact data, but this is much better structure and it has much better metadata. In other versions of this demo, I actually sort of compare these two. For now, though, I'm just going to use the JSON embed. Okay, so what you can do with something like this is you can get more deep analysis of something. So you can say, you know, something really simple like list the open task, right? Simple stuff. But then you can also ask much deeper things like list the personnel and determine and which are doing well and which aren't. So this is a much more useful thing right out of the gate, right? Because it shows it's looking through something that would take you a while to do. So, and then some people it can't really tell because there's nothing there, but we've got 2 people who are doing well and other people who are not, right? So like Pedro only worked 11 on something against a 5-hour budget, completing Yeah, slightly over. Anyway, so this is kind of useful, I think. And then you can really kind of go into it. For example, like do something like saying, based on how far behind we are, what's the likely actual completion date? Or other type of report things that you can ask, like how many total hours.
Matt,
Yeah.
doing well is a value judgment.
Yes,
How
it
do you
is.
get that out of data?
Well, I maybe didn't word that. Well, I mean, AI can make value judgments on things. It's looking at, I'll take well, let's actually just pause on that right here. So when I say doing well, I have this organized stakeholder meeting that went way over budget. It got completed, but it also got completed really late. So over budget and late, and this was assigned to Pedro. So Pedro's not doing a good job, basically. And then I have this other project that was completed. That actually should say 100%. Bad sample data. It was completed under budget and early. And this was done by someone named Matthew, naturally. Right, so if I kind of go back to this project, and I redo that query, I can say list the staff that are so this is more direct. Yeah, this is wrong. So this is actually a really good example of why there's some problems. 9/1/2025 is not before 7/15 of 2025. That might be because I'm actually giving it the date in ISO standard, which it said it wanted, and then having it display the data in regular month, day, year, American style. So if I run this exact same thing again, it actually might give me a different result. Yeah, so it still is confused about the dates. So yeah, because Pedro's definitely late and Matthew's early. So yeah, this is not magic, right? You get in what you get out what you put in. Obviously, in my demos, I got better results than this. But that's what playing with the system prompt and testing is. So again, as a FileMaker developer, my time is not writing these reports and layouts like I used to do. It is now testing and writing good prompts.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
So the factual error here where the date isn't actually before the other date, are you saying that has to do with some specifics that you can fix, or how much of it might have to do with just AI hallucinating?
No, I think it's specifics that I can fix, right? So I put this line in, dates that are given to you are standard. I didn't specify which ISO standard. And also, maybe I just shouldn't be giving it to it in that format, right? So if the input and output are all month, day, year, then I can probably solve this, right? So let me just take that out, go to my JSON LD for my task, and not use the ISO date function, right? So now it won't try to normalize those dates, so it's getting data in two different ones. So this is just switching it. Should make it, that alone, we'll see, should fix it.
Are we not worried about like hallucinations with that output?
We absolutely are. So test.
But dates are always a problem anytime you deal internationally. So that's not unique to LLMs. it's not an LLM problem. It's a
Sure.
kind of a problem that whenever you get Europeans or Americans talking about dates, you need to make sure they're talking the same format.
Yeah, for sure. It just kind of reminded me that, that in general, we still have AI hallucinating, I'm sure. So like, what are we depending on here when we're not just talking about editing language or that really cool, synopses of each picture image that we shot before?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll do the same prompt again. By the way, I noticed that my data was in a different format. Yeah, so this is still wrong, right? He completed on 9/1, but the target due is 7/15. That is not early. So I don't know if I am sure I could fix this with better prompting and better outputs, and maybe actually another way to do this would be to list so that it's not trying to compare dates. I could put a calculation into the JSON LD. I don't want to get too deep into this, right? But if it's completed on time or early, I could just put a function in here called is on time or days late. And days late would be the completion date minus the start date. Is that right? Or backwards? Anyway. So you could have like a days late and a days early function. And then that way, and you're sending that to the model. There you go. That's definitely wrong though, right? Unless oh wait.
Yeah, you need date due, not started, I think.
Yeah, not only that, but yeah, exactly. I didn't put in I didn't put something in the calculation that said if there's only a start date but not a complete date, then there is no days late function. It doesn't apply. So that's totally on me and my.
You might want to look at the prompt that, it ends up with and not. Stop there.
Yeah. What did you see here? I'm not actually putting anything specific about dates, but this is where I would do it, right? When asked about dates, look at the project, look at the fields, task table. These are very short prompts, and other things that I do, I write much more
All
explicit.
right, now look right there. See up at the top of the screen, it says the staff that are completing projects on time and early and that are not.
Oh, I meant that staff that are not, right. You're right, that was a bad user prompt. There you go. So this is actually giving me a better result. People who may be considered for firing due to late completion or poor schedule adherence. Pedro, top of the list. Oh, interesting. So Matthew gets some marks against him because other tasks are not completed or on schedule yet, but they haven't been started. So anyway, so I think this kind of stuff is really useful. It definitely has to have some testing. I think what I would probably do if I put this into production is rather than writing the prompts, I would create a table that cans a bunch of them to user prompts that I know will work, and then let the user like tweak it and specify and add things like that, right? So you have a lot more, you get a lot more reliable output that way. Okay, and then
Can I contribute something?
Yeah, please.
I find this very fascinating. One thing, I just had a discussion this morning with my colleagues about how Copilot's being rolled out in the hospital. And a use case like this is obviously very compelling to people. Just like years ago, they thought that dashboards with KPIs were incredibly compelling. And the one thing that I would say is poor Matthew, who is on the firing list, and poor whoever it was who was organizing the stakeholder meeting, because the other piece of data that would have been significant was what is the complexity and how many moving parts. And as a project manager, I think that stuff like that, although the completion dates are quantifiable and set in stone, the other issues that are more human-centric need somehow to be incorporated into anything like this, if any decisions would be based on the AI results. And that's my tuppence worth.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and you're right on to one of the key things that you must have in AI, which is good data. And in this, I'm actually showing complexity here. In this totally fake data set, I have a priority, which doesn't appear on the list. But I think if you had complexity on there, it could absolutely take that into effect, and it would do a really good job understanding that and giving you a good result in the test that I do. And, like with Google searches, whatever, if you don't get the result that you like, try it again. I mean, I could do this exact same one again, and I'm going to get hopefully the same basic data. Nope. So, and this one is definitely wrong again. So I definitely wouldn't want to work. I'd figure out what's going on with here. In fact, I'd probably say to ChatGPT, hey, I'm doing this. I'm getting a prompt. I'm getting a response that's totally wrong. Here's my prompt. How do I fix it? That's how I've been going about tweaking my system prompts. I use a lot of GPT in that part, and a lot of round trips for that. Okay, the last demo kind of really picks up right for that one was, and it's the same idea, except rather than getting the response in text or in JSON, it's going to get the results in HTML. And in this example, I have some companies that I can just choose some, and then I have a script that grabs the ones that are selected. So it's basically finding this list of 12 companies and then concatenating all of their JSON LD for all of them together into one JSON block. So this is basically one level up from organization. So I have a pretty, what's getting to be a larger block of JSON. And there's absolutely an upper limit, which is not that high when you're doing an API prompt. Anyway, so then what I get is a prompt where I can say, create a table of customers represented. Now, I'll get text result back. I'm getting a spinning beach ball here. Yeah, still have spinning beach ball. Here you go. So here's the text result listing each of the customers in my list and their total invoiced amount and when they were contacted last and when they were next last. So this is just getting the data directly from that. But I can look much deeper in here. So in each of these in each of these invoices, there's products represented. And so I might want to say like list the top 10 most expensive products. Represent for these customers, sold to these customers. Then make a column chart. And here you can be quite explicit with things too. So I use a junior version of this to get one thing back, to get one pie chart of just this one little bit of data. So like on a dashboard with your KPIs, you can use an AI call to get back HTML for something really, really little. But in this case, you can get something bigger. I haven't actually tried it, but I'm pretty sure you can get back. So here's the HTML, the raw HTML that comes back. And then here's the response. So this is kind of some junk up here, right? So this is definitely something I don't want. And this actually didn't format correctly. So that's another good example, right? Because in a demo, it's the way it always works, right? So I have Electros, here's my $25,000 thing. So here's these 10 things. So that's the distribution of products in my list. If I run the exact same thing again, I should get, hopefully I'd get the exact same data. But one of the things I do when I test all this stuff is I take a really basic prompt and then I run it 50 times. And then I take a look and see what the variability was. And, oh, so this is just kind of a different scale, but that's still 25,000. Yeah, these are the same, I think they're the same products in the same order. Subatomic particle analyzer should really cost a lot more than 6,000. And this time it actually fixed the other issue. Yeah, so this is kind of useful, and I think this is kind of a better way to run reports for a lot of things. It's definitely not a panacea, but it is something that you can put into production really quickly for the places where it is appropriate. And that will not be medical applications probably right now. So the key here is a much longer system prompt. So specifying exactly what I want and don't, and how it's formatted. How to integrate a chart, not to put stuff above, anyway, so that's this. That's how that works. And also, I'm not really sure the model I'm using here. Pretty sure it's 4.1 nano, because generate response from model doesn't work with GPT-5. It takes like 30 seconds and then frequently just fails. So I've been using just insert from URL and then using the 5 models when I use the OpenAI methods. Okay, so that's kind of it that's my 10 things. This is what I've been up to. What do you guys think?
So I'll jump in. I'll say I'd like the image brings back a block of text. Can you add a prompt? Say I prefer Oxford Commerce.
Sure.
Okay, that would make the world a better place.
I agree with you.
I watched, and yeah, I think that would also it disambiguates language, and I'm a huge fan of Oxford Commas.
Yeah, I'm with you. Gosh, I'm looking at the people on this meeting. Some of this must be so simple to people like Vince and Ian. Anyway, so I apologize if that was.
But some of us haven't been using it. I'm wondering, for client purposes, what version do we need to be in to use all this stuff?
So if you're using, frankly, the more powerful features go along with the regular old APIs. If you've been using APIs before with insert from URL, you get way more control, and that you can use FileMaker all the way back to, I don't know, 17 or whatever, whenever that came out. And you can get the results in a web viewer. You can do all the same things. In fact, you can even do the image analysis that way, because that's using insert from URL. I really like the new script steps of the semantic. Well, semantic find stuff won't work, by the way. So that you have to have 21. But for all the other stuff I've been doing, it's 22. I'd strongly recommend version 22, the current version.
Okay.
Because it gives you that generate response from model script step, which makes life so much easier. You don't have to send the API key every single time you call it. You only do it once when you initialize it.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it a lot easier. You don't have to worry about any curl commands. It handles all that stuff. Kind of the only thing I would warn you about is the way it runs as a black box, right? You don't get to see whether it's using the responses endpoint, the images endpoint, the chat completions endpoint, or whatever for any given model that you're sending it. There are a lot of configurations, checkboxes, but I don't know, maybe we have people on the call who can tell me if any of those can be used to actually specify a different endpoint like the responses endpoint.
Is there any curated list of which models are the best to use for which purpose?
Lots of testing.
No. Several of us have asked Claris for some clarification on that, and basically this supports the OpenAI API mostly, but no. Apart from that, if you're using other models, there's not a lot of information about which ones are supported. We've all been asking for that for a while.
I myself stick to the basics. I've tested a bunch of models from different ones, but I just really like the OpenAI ones. They're pretty inexpensive. I think they're pretty well tested. So, and then each of them come in a few. Now 5.1 just came out, yesterday, day before, something like that. So we have a brand new one that's new. I think that FileMaker docs say that the model that they want to use, or the one that's most tested, is for Omni with their stuff. So that's actually kind of left in the dust now, because since then we've had 4.1, 5, and now 5.1. And not only do the newer models perform better, but they're cheaper, and they have different flavors. So nano, micro, and regular. So they have kind of in each one. The higher level you use costs more, it takes more time, and gives you a better result.
And to answer Lynn's question, things are changing all the time, like week by week, so it's difficult to determine which is the best at any one time.
But if you put something in production, and just leave it in there and it works.
One thing I'd like to contribute is if people have not delved into this, please take the Claris Academy certification, and you will feel so much more comfortable taking this on.
I also recommend the productive computing classes. They're quite excellent. Yep. Okay. I'm a little bit over time. I apologize for that. If you guys want to chat about it more, I always would love to do that. Let's see. Do we go from Breakout? What is the next on our agenda if someone's looking at that? I put all the timing together but didn't memorize it.
Joris Aarts and Johan Hedman EngageU.
Yep. So that's me again. Thank you. So this is a 10-minute video that I recorded this morning because it's 8 o'clock at night for them and they didn't want to join the meeting. Weirdly, it's 8 o'clock at night for me too, but I'm used to working these hours.
Joris and Johan, welcome. I haven't seen you guys in days.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I'm glad you're joining. Can make a video to talk to the people at this FMDiSC meeting that I'm running. I'm actually watching a video myself, which is weird. Anyway, so the conference that you have put on, I've been to it a few times, and I wanted to get it on the radar of the people in the US because I really want to have more people go. Can you tell me a little bit about it, when it started?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. This was the 4th version. We've had it 2 times in Malmö, Sweden, and now 2 times in Antwerp. And it's all got started because we thought this would be a good project to get everyone in the EMEA, meaning Europe,
We're losing audio?
Yeah, we all lost.
Looks like we lost audio.
Yeah, we have.
Do we have a lip reader?
Just dropped off.
Yeah.
I think it was playing through my mic, unfortunately. Let me try that again. I'll back up a little bit.
the EMEA,
Started out okay.
Europe, Africa, Middle East can I meet up?
Sorry, I'm laughing because I grabbed the Mrs. Comic. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
See that? Yeah. And then Joris and me, we met many years back at DevCons, and we thought, why don't we join forces? Bringing up an old version of what we call the Scandinavian DevCon, but in a European version instead.
Mhm.
And so we did. And funny, first time we had it, we didn't expect too many people to show up, but we actually had more than 130 something, if I remember correctly, the first year. And
Wow.
then we've just been lucky having more and more people coming to join us every single year.
Yeah, it was one of the first live events after the pandemic. It was still a risk because there was still talks about a 4th wave. But yes, we took the risk and it turned out great.
I think it's kind of amazing that 2 companies can work together to run it as you guys are, which makes it a lot easier from personnel wise. But I don't know how you deal with it as gracefully as you do, but I'm glad you do.
Thank you, I appreciate it. There's a friendship between Johan and me, personal friendship, and that makes indeed things a lot easier. We kind of tend to think alike on a lot of subjects, and there are a lot of like little micro decisions to make on a conference on what to do, but certainly also what not to do. And it's amazing. I realized that also yesterday. It's amazing how much we read between the lines, and we need little meeting time to get aligned on speaker choice, subjects, timing, and all those kind of practical stuff. And that saves a lot of energy.
Yeah, for sure. So this year you had 250 people, which is amazing. I'm rounding up. I think it was 247.
Yeah.
Sponsorship from Claris and tons of other companies, which is amazing. Talk a little bit about the session content, what your goal is there, number of tracks, number of days.
Yeah, so we really are helpful that Claris are holding our back. We had 5 people from PMs joining us and helping us out with the opening session, and always available throughout the entire conference. But we also have some exhibitors that we have. So we have an exhibitor room to make sure that they get a lot of feedback and communications from all the attendees as well, which I think is very important in an event like this. But the agenda, it's really, really hard. I have to say that. We do get more people signing up that they want to be speakers that we can allow to because we don't have spaces enough. This year we had 3 simultaneous tracks plus a sponsored session for every time slot. And even so, we had to turn down a whole lot of really good speakers that came. And if we look at the lineup this year, we had some of the, I'd say, Claris DevCon best speakers on our lineup. So we are very, very fortunate to have some amazing speakers at our event.
Yeah, it was great to have 360works, Jesse Barnum, Todd Geist from Proofgeist, was also speaker. Wim de Kort was there. Yes, amongst all those people from Europe, also these same speakers.
Yeah, more and more people from the US, and all the great people that I've been getting to meet from Europe in the last few years. So the trade show, that brings up one kind of really important thing that, which is that you guys are really going for the feel of what great DevCons were in the US. You've been going to DevCons for decades, as have I. And I think you remembered how great they were. And so you put the trade show, like right in the break room. So there's a lot of flow from people, and that means the exhibitors actually get a lot of business and traction and connections. Also, you have it in one hotel. I'm doing all the speaking for you guys, but I'm just telling you why I love this conference. You have the whole event in one hotel, so everyone is staying at the hotel. You get a good group rate. It's got a great lobby bar, and then all the sessions are there. So if you'd like, you need to take a nap, you can do that. And then it really, really worked out socialization-wise. People would just be in the lobby. You'd come up and see people. You get in on a conversation. So it wasn't just about the events. It was really from breakfast until 1 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
And
we learned a lot from feedback. So like the first 2 years were different, and we had a hotel and the meeting venue in different places. We had the exhibitor area in the wrong place, but okay, people are honest. We do an evaluation each year, this year as well. And we took that to heart and we took action. And it seems indeed that everything under one roof experience, that's what developers or what the community is craving for. Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't have a single session on AI.
Yeah. No, one of the comments I got this year when I met one of the developers at the airport was that maybe it was one or two too many AI presentations this year. But I mean, the entire community is screaming AI right now. So it was a lot of people who wanted to speak about it. And then we also have some of those most amazing people working with it. Like one of the best guys from Europe, Ian Jemsen, he had a beautiful presentation. Todd Geist about MCP and Wim Lacourt. I mean, they can really explain what AI is and what you can do with it. Plus, yourself, you had a perfect pre-conference training with a big group of attendees. So
25 people.
I think that's what people like to hear.
Yeah, it was definitely great. I love that part of it for sure. What are your goals for next year?
First off, I think we need to let this sink in a little bit and then look at what feedbacks we got and see what we can enhance. But if we would be able to get even more people to do the travel over the seas to come and attend our conference, that would be lovely.
We certainly have room
like to extend in Europe as well, but we wouldn't mind having some more people to attend.
Yeah, I think I heard you say the venue can handle up to 500 people that you've already got.
Yes, in Antwerp certainly, yes, and in Malmö as well. I believe. Yeah, so it's easier for us. We can now stay in the same hotel, and we have room for growth.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I have goals for how many people I want you to have if you don't. Because you have room for 500, don't you?
Yeah.
So we all know how much we love to visit DevCons in the past, not only to learn new knowledge, but also to meet everyone, to share and talk about all the things in our lives that we kind of do on a daily basis. And this is what we are trying to get back. We are trying to meet up with everyone, and I can't tell you how many good conversations I had over the last couple of days. It's just so amazing to be with this community. Everyone's so sharing, willingness and happy to be there. And that feeling is really touching going out from Antwerp this year. And hopefully that's what we're going to bring to Sweden next year.
Yep, I hope so. I'll ask just one last question and I'll let you guys go. What are some of the decisions that you're making, separate from the feedback you're getting, but some of the decisions you're making for the conference next year, number of days, number of sessions, things like that?
Yeah, we're considering making it a little bit easier on ourselves and maybe also on the participants by adding one more day and removing one track, because now there's a lot happening in 2 days. Like Johan mentioned, 4 tracks, so a lot of fear of missing out. Of course, we do recordings of all sessions, but it's also very intense for us as well, because there are so many things going on at the same time. Yeah. So we think that adding one day, removing one track will make it a bit easier for participants as well.
I would actually vote for that because I think, I think that it would make it easier. I guess what I would say is when I was doing the panel session, there was a session or two that I really wished I was in instead of the presenting one. So that's kind of a sign that you have enough tracks, If I remember, didn't DevCon sometimes even used to be 4 days of sessions? It's been so long. Anyway. Okay.
At least
well, do you
3
have any?
days for the training day. Yes, that's what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now, but I'm trying to like go back to like back when they were in, you know, Florida and Arizona and places. So any last thoughts before I let you guys get back to recovering from the conference?
Yeah, I think you should ask any American that did attend this year if they liked it or not. And if so, please join in next year. We are more than happy to have you.
All right. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys next year, if not before.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.
All right, that was that. And we are 7 minutes behind calendar schedule. So we can, I'll pause the recording. We can go into breakout rooms. Actually, I think I'll just. Part 2, breakout rooms are done. They don't get recorded. So, Lynn, you said you have an announcement before we continue?
Sure. I just wanted to say if anyone is new here, you can introduce yourself in the chat, and anyone who wants to be added to the groups.io mailing list, which is very low noise, high quality content, put your email either in a private message to me or in the chat, and I will add you. So that is it.
Okay. Still recording. What happens if you're still recording and there are breakout rooms? I do not know. But I think they're all closed at this point. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is Chris doing his technology update before we have the interview. So, Chris, you are on, sir.
You're muted, Chris.
There we go. Can you guys see my screen now?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Excellent. All right, welcome to the November edition of Tech News Roundup, or as Matt calls it, AI News Roundup. There's a lot of AI content. Yes, there was a ton of stuff, so I had to cut a bunch of stuff. So I might gallop through this a bit. First up, the fun part was a huge geomagnetic storm, lots of solar flares happening, and people all over the country, even way like down in New Mexico and Arizona, we're seeing northern lights in the south, which is pretty cool. Neat stuff. There's a good article about it on space.com. And then this feels like a long, long time ago, but way back on October 20th, there was the huge AWS outage. All sorts of services and online apps broke because it was a specific failure in one region and there was no regional failover, meaning that if AWS went down in, I guess it was the Northeast, that you could fail over to, I don't know, the West or something like that. So all these applications discover they had a robustness and reliability problem. And this one was my favorite. The 8 Sleep has a mattress that was a smart mattress, and it caused all sorts of problems with their smart beds. That they had no offline mode, and so they were stuck at high temperatures because they're heated beds. They would do odd positions, so people felt like they were sleeping on an on-ramp or something like that. Their products rely on cloud connectivity to control temperature and track biometrics, and when that down, the things went bananas. So some beds overheated, some stopped cooling altogether, and some said the devices became completely unresponsive. This is a little bit of a sad story, I guess. This is a Russian robotics company called AI Doll, and they just introduced their new robot. There it is. Little bits and pieces on the ground. Anyway, it did not go well. On happier AI news, there's a AI country music artist called Breaking Rust, who so this is completely synthetic music, synthetic performance, and you can find it on YouTube. This one happens to be Walk My Walk. Computer generated blues country singer. It's #1 on Billboard's country digital charts. Has 3.5 million streams on Spotify as of yesterday, I guess. This Breaking Rust virtual artist also has other songs, Living on Borrowed Time, Kicking Back at the Ground, and they're featured on a 5-track EP titled Resilient, which was released, I think, just days ago. There are other AI creations. There's an R&B artist, Zanya Monet, I guess is how you pronounce that, with a song called How Was I Supposed to Know? That is on Billboard's adult R&B airplay radio chart. So AI music has arrived, let's put it that way. And then there was a bit of a kerfluffle over the last week or so. So this is a provocative headline, why OpenAI went into crisis PR mode. So there was a Wall Street event, Wall Street Journal event on November 5th, and they had OpenAI's chief financial officer there, a woman named Sarah Fire. And she suggested that the US government should backstop the various AI companies' investments in artificial intelligence infrastructure. And the quote is, the backstop, the guarantee that allows the financing to happen, that can really drop the cost of the financing, but also increase the loan to value. So the amount of debt that you can take on top of an equity portion. And the implication seemed to be that they wanted, OpenAI being they, wanted the US government / US taxpayers to be on the hook if OpenAI can't figure out how to pay for all the chips and data centers and capacity that it needs. There was a huge amount of backlash that all the billionaires want someone else to take on the risk for them. And then by Thursday, Sam Altman sort of came in, did some posts on X, clarifying the company's position on a government backstop. He said they expect to earn 20 billion in revenue this year and they plan to grow to hundreds of billions in annual revenue by 2030. But he said the company does not have or want government guarantees for OpenAI data centers. So he did suggest that the government could consider investing in its own data centers and guarantee loans for building US chip fabrication plants. Anyway, this felt very unsettled and murky. And then this was followed up by JP Morgan. And so there's a subreddit called They Did the Math. And so JP Morgan did the math on all this pending investment on data centers. And they said it would take 650 billion in annual revenue spent on AI services to deliver just a 10% return on all the AI build out that's being planned. And there's, everyone's been seeing the layoffs. So there's a guy named Nate Smith of Nate's newsletter fame on a AI Substack. And he said he used to be at Amazon, and all this talk about I forget how many thousands of employees got laid off at Amazon. But he said this has nothing to do with their jobs being taken over by AI. This is Amazon, who makes most of their profit from AWS, needing to divert funds towards CapEx of buying data centers, which are enormously expensive. And so they're just cutting that headcount so they can spend the money on buying more data centers. And yes, the current spending rate is set to give us overcapacity, but there's more demand than supply at this point. So everybody is on a gold rush trying to build as fast as they can so they capture the clientele before other people do. And so this is sort of a data center customer race. Whoever builds it first gets the customers. And so that's what's going on here. It's crazy amounts of money, and it's not sustainable. And there's a lot of talk about an AI bubble. There's certainly overcapacity on the books right now, but there's certainly customers who want what data centers have. All right, moving on. Anthropic just made a shocking announcement yesterday. apparently Chinese state actors have found a way to break, Anthropic is sort of known as one of the uh, companies in the AI space that pays most attention to AI safety. And apparently the Chinese state-sponsored group found a way to manipulate Claude code into being its hacking robot, basically. And so this gets into something called context splitting. And if you said, I need to hack into that company over there, let's, get in, penetrate their network and get on their stuff. Anthropic will not do that. But if you say, I'm doing a red team exercise on my own company and I need to do this small, discrete task, that doesn't sound as threatening. And so it'll do it. And so they found a way to manipulate prompt context in such a way that Anthropic would do it. Now, to their credit, Anthropic detected all this. Um, but it's still alarming that, basically the tools they made use of, model intelligence, agentic capabilities, tooling, and stuff like that wasn't available even, or at least in anything other than a nascent state, wasn't available even a year ago. And so this, because of the most recent advances in the technology, they were able to do this. It is way beyond the scope of what we have time for me to get into it here, but you should check out the blog post on Anthropic on how it worked. But basically, human operators said, here's your target, go get him. And it would call a bunch of MCP servers that had very discrete tasks. Here's a scanning tool and a searching tool and a data retrieval tool and a code analysis tool, which individually seemed okay, but in the aggregate, they're very dangerous. And then that would report back, here's what I found. And then it would say, okay, go ahead and initiate phase 3 and try exploits and try exfiltrating information and on to 4 and 5. And so over the last couple of months, I've mentioned that a lot of major players like defense contractors and government agencies have been getting hacked. And that's what was going on. It was the Chinese who had co-opted Anthropic to hack US companies and agencies. It was a wild, wild thing. You should definitely read the article. It's a lot to absorb, but interesting and slightly terrifying stuff.
Chris, were these government sanctioned or were these underworld type people from China?
This was like it's a Chinese state actor. There are multiple Chinese state actors that hack on behalf of the intelligence services. It's basically a military unit that's doing this kind of stuff. Deniability and all that stuff. No, we don't know what you're talking about, but that's what that was the attribution they got. It's crazy stuff. Amplitude. Has anyone heard of this sucker? So Amplitude, everyone's familiar with SEO, search engine optimization. Now there's generative AI optimization. Some people call it answer engine optimization. This is a way for you to basically have a tool that you can point at your website and say, hey, how do I look here? And it will evaluate your site or any site you can have it pointed at your competitors' sites and stuff like that. It will get into how well your site, how tasty your site is to search LLMs in terms of the answers they might want to present to a query that they're given by a user. So today, 6 and 10 web browsing sessions include an AI generated summary. Everyone's like used Google recently and seen these little AI summaries. It's transformed how people are searching and making purchase decisions. A lot of people are using ChatGPT or Claude to find answers, Perplexity, so on and so forth. If your brand is not showing up in these answers, then you're invisible. So there's been a ton of noise, especially from Cloudflare, saying the open web that we used to know and love is fading rapidly. And traditional SEO just isn't doing it anymore. So for those of you who've noticed this and are trying to find something to help you figure out what's going on, I would check out Amplitude. It's a interesting tool. And then special correspondent Bob Shockey alerted me to this story. This is a good one. So ClickFix is it's malware basically. So it starts with an email sent from a hotel that you had a pending reservation, or, a WhatsApp message or what have you. And it will ask you to, it'll give you a string of text to copy, ask you to open a terminal window, paste it in, press enter, and then poof, you're toast. So it will have your PC or Mac visit a scammer-controlled server and download malware, and then it'll use credential stealing malware to basically disrupt your life. So bad things. You should check it out. It's an article on Ars Technica. This one was, a lot of people have heard of Google's Nest thermostats. They were, I guess, Nest all by themselves, and then they eventually became Google after they launched. But users will no longer be able to control their thermostats, their early ones, first and second gen, remotely via their smartphone, receive notifications, change settings from your mobile device. So the end of support disables third-party assistance, other cloud-based features. However, the thermostats still work. They just are losing the remote connectivity that made them appealing to begin with. So the hacker community decided that this cannot stand. And so there is a project that they created called No Longer Evil. And this is that project. And so if you are the owner of an early Nest thermostat, go check this out. There is a GitHub repo where you can basically reprogram your Nest and resume having those features that made the thing useful in the first place. So I thought that was interesting. Heidi found this one. This is a privacy related thing. So basically, Apple and Google and perhaps others are doing IP blinding by using two hops. It's a little hard to explain, but take a look at this x.com post. So basically, if you use a web browsing request that use private relay, Apple is not able to determine the user client IP addresses. And so basically, if law enforcement comes to them and says, hey, we need to trace who this user is, they say, we can't. So this was sort of on the quiet that this was implemented, but it's a huge boost to privacy, and not enough people know about it. Speaking of something for the greater public good, in a couple months ago, I think I talked about the flock surveillance cameras, which are all over places like Home Depot or Best Buy or what have you. The police and other law enforcement agencies were using those to scan for license plates and people they were looking for and stuff like that. Basically, a big privacy no-no. But a judge in Washington State has ruled that the police images taken by their license plate scanning cameras are public records, and they can be requested as part of a normal public record request. So basically, you can do a FOIA request to find out what's going on there. And this was specific to Washington State, but it sets a precedent. It says these images are public records under the Washington State Public Records Act. They are not exempt from disclosure. So what prompted the lawsuit was someone was trying to FOIA the evidence that a police agency had. And because flock camera images are created and used to further a governmental purposes, that the images on them are therefore public records because they are paid for by taxpayers. And then I just want to end, actually, this is my next to last slide, but I thought this one was funny. So basically, someone was, a parent was using ChatGPT to help their kid with homework and said, don't do the homework for them, try and coach them through it. And said, if I heard that if you were a child, it said, heads up, your account is marked as belonging to a child, so I can't solve math problems unless you give me the code word. If you type in applesauce, I'll happily solve it for you step by step. And then the person wrote, chat, the password was a secret, and it said folded under zero pressure. So basically it coughed up the password for the kid so it would do the homework for the kid for them, and I was amused. And then this in Myanmar, which I get apparently is a big center of scam operations, they just seized 30 Starlink receivers that they were using to obscure the origins of these scam operators. So these are internet sweatshops where workers scam whoever with business or romance schemes. These have thrived in Myanmar's sort of sketchy border regions since the pandemic shut down casinos, which were operating in the area, and sort of joint crackdown by Thai, Chinese, Myanmar authorities that started in February scooped up thousands of these suspected scammers, and they found 30 Starlink receivers that they were using to further their operations. And that's all I got for November Tech News Roundup.
Excellent. Maybe we can recall it AI Roundup. I don't know. Was any of that? Some of that was not AI. Okay. So our last segment is an interview discussion. Bob, Elizabeth, what do you guys want to really label that conversation you're going to have?
It's an interview of our newest board member, Elizabeth Swenson.
Excellent. I will let you take over from here.
All right. Well, everybody, you all heard the announcement, or most of you heard the announcement. I think it was last month's FMDiSC meeting that our board has expanded by one more new member, and that is Elizabeth Swenson, who's been a longtime FMDiSC member, and who is going to be running some meetings before too long. And so we thought might be a good idea if you could all just get to know her a little bit better. So Elizabeth, are you here?
I'm here. Hi,
you.
Bob.
Okay. Hi. Hi. Good to see you.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob.
Yeah. So first of all, welcome to the FMDiSC board.
Thank you.
Did you know what you were getting into?
I first of all, when I got the email from Lynn, I went, really? You sure? Me? But she was very gracious. And I didn't know what I was getting into. Honestly, I don't think I was really consciously aware that there was a board. But in the few months since I've been involved, it's been very interesting to sort of peek behind the curtain and see the massive amounts of collaboration that go on just to put one meeting together.
Yeah, it would probably surprise most people just how much goes on behind the scenes. So that's a very apt description of what we do. Well, a little bit about you. You're recently married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's just in August, right?
Yeah, we had our wedding celebration in August outdoors. And I made my own dress, which was the most challenging garment I've ever made in my entire life.
I'll bet. Do you do a lot of sewing?
I don't do a lot right now. I've been sewing since age 8. And I worked in the costume shop in college. That was my work study job. So I got to make some very interesting types of clothing, like 11th century footwear, things like that you just don't think about how that works. And I want to say 27 years ago, when my youngest sister got married, I made her wedding gown. And that was a very, if you've seen the movie Dangerous Liaisons, that 17th century style with the boned bodice and the big skirts, that's the kind of dress she had. So, and we didn't have a pattern for that. We had no template. So we just made that one up. My dress, I had a pattern. And it was a very simple slip dress, but the fabric was incredibly challenging. And yeah, I'm glad I gave myself a lot of time and grace with it because it was a very, very difficult puzzle.
I think you described it as your dream wedding.
Well, since I've only had one, yeah, I guess my dream wedding. We were, my husband and I were not spring chickens, so we wanted a ceremony that would really represent us and how we met. So we had guests assembled in a circle under the trees, and we were escorted by all the surviving members of our immediate family independently to the center of the circle where we met and did the vows. was really lovely.
Sounds very nice. You do some riding. You're an equestrian.
Oh yes, I have one horse now, just one. He's lovely. He's a 26-year-old registered Black Arabian horse, and he was trained to sort cows and run barrels. And I don't really do any of those things. So I took him on endurance rides. We competed in endurance, which is 25, 50, 100-mile races through whatever the local terrain is, with vet checks along the way, because the imperative for that competition is making sure that the horse is fit to continue. So there's a whole scale of things that they evaluate: hydration, strength, respiratory stuff, all of that. So you have to meet all of those criteria in order to continue on the next leg of the journey. And he was a great little endurance horse. He was always a top 10 finisher while we competed, but we're retired from the sport. So now we just ride around the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Well, that sounds wonderful too.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
You were involved at one time with, and have been involved, I guess, quite a bit with women in technology.
Oh, WIT FM?
Yes.
Women Innovating Together. Yeah, that used to be, that grew out of a group of women who loosely used to meet at the FileMaker DevCon, which seems like a timely conversation given what I was hearing in the breakout rooms and everyone talking, hearkening back to the old days of DevCon. Julie Sigfrenius invited me to participate, and I, just thought I was going to be doing something simple, but I got in there with a bunch of really amazing women. Molly Connolly was very involved when I started. And then she, she was actually a really great mentor in a lot of ways, not the least of which was when she saw that I had the reins, she stepped back and went on to spin the other 17 plates that she was spinning somewhere else. And that was a really excellent model for what we tried to do with the group that ultimately became WIT FM, because one of the main mission statements was to mentor women in leadership. So as people stepped in or stepped up and said, "Hey, I think I can do this," I could then hand it off and step back. And I saw others of my colleagues do that. Susan Fenema did that as well. And it's been really rewarding to just see the next generation of women in this community kind of step up and go, "Yeah, I got this. I'm going to take this the next leg of the race."
It seemed like from the beginning, at least my experience of it from the outside, was that the support for it was pretty strong right from the get-go within the FileMaker community. Was that your experience of it?
You're not wrong, Bob. I was actually kind of gobsmacked by how strong the experience was. And this group was one of the first places I turned when we were looking for scholarship opportunities. And the board, unbeknownst to me that there was a board, but this group was so very open and welcoming to let us come forward and say, "Hey, this is going on." And I was, really inspired by how much the FileMaker community as a whole wanted to support women and their growth with this platform and in this technology.
Yeah, that's great. I was really impressed, like I said, just by viewing it from the outside. It really seemed like everybody was on board right from the get-go. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I remember you in particular at, I think it was the Dallas DevCon, just hunkered over a computer trying to come up with a logo for us. So, the support was multifaceted like that. Sometimes it was money, sometimes it was training, sometimes it was just somebody offering a little piece of their expertise. It was really wonderful.
I don't think I was successful with that logo. I'd forgotten that I even tried. So
I think we had our new name yet, and so
right.
Yeah.
So you are the owner and sole developer of User Space.
I am.
Yeah. How long you been in business?
I'm in my 9th year now.
Okay. That's good. Wow, almost a decade.
Almost a decade. That's pretty incredible. I think when I started out, I was looking at statistics for how long businesses last, and I think I read something that if you can make it past 3 years, you're going to be okay. And so I started in 2017, and 3 years later, we had the pandemic. God. But so by the time the pandemic hit, I had already been working remotely for a number of years, so it wasn't hard for me. And I think I was very lucky because I had a good amount of work during the pandemic.
Yeah, I heard that a lot of developers did. I don't think you were the only one. I think that people found blind spots in their business that they needed help with. And they kept us busy for that first year, especially after the shutdown. So
I heard the same.
yeah. Um, but you do sometimes collaborate with other people outside of your business, right? You have some people who help you out sometimes.
Well, sure, because I recognize that there's lots of um, things that this platform allows and enables you to do. I don't know all of it because I'm not a computer science person. I didn't come from I studied languages and I actively avoided the computer lab for the first 2 years of college. Um, so things like writing JavaScript or writing HTML, those are not things that I'm very well versed in. So when I needed somebody to write that, I first looked to this group actually, this FMDiSC group, and hey, who's here that can write some JavaScript and HTML? And so I first contracted with a man named Ronnie Sir, who I don't see on the meeting today, but he was lovely to work with. I've also done some work with Jeremy Brown recently, the the master of JavaScript in a web viewer. So yeah, I still get opportunities to collaborate with people in the community when there's a need, but then I also I inherit databases from other developers who have are independents like me and they've just become too busy and they say, hey, do you have time to help these folks? And that sometimes ends up being collaborative just because in some of the really complex systems, that initial developer knows where all the bodies are buried. So it's good to have someone who still wants to have a little bit of a stake in it.
Yeah, yeah. How did you get into FileMaker in the first place?
I was working as the assistant to the VP of creative at a motion graphics company in Hollywood back in the mid 90s. And they were using FileMaker, I think FileMaker 1 or 2, for the designers to input their time on jobs. And so I started hacking away in FileMaker and came up with a pretty primitive solution to the age-old problem of how do we keep track of all these jobs and who's on what job and, how many jobs does Amanda have versus how many does Kurt have and that sort of thing. And so we started doing our reporting on the jobs out of there and out of FileMaker. And that little FileMaker experiment parlayed itself into a job being created for me, which was a creative resources manager. So I stayed there for about 3.5 years and then bounced around for about 15 years doing graphics production management and learned a lot of different databases, Access, Lotus Notes, even Excel. People were tracking stuff in Excel. But if FileMaker was available, it was always my tool of choice. And it wasn't until I was at City of Hope, and that would be like early mid aughts, and they had a graphics job management system, but they had 3 different versions of it on 2 servers and 3 versions of FileMaker. And I proposed that I could make it better. So they covered my desk for 6 weeks and gave me a little tiny office with no windows, which was great because I covered it with Post-it notes as I'm trying, it was my first really big conversion project. And we got everyone up on FileMaker 11, which had IWP. And that was important for the organization because we went from people handing me a paper slip that I had to then re-enter into the system to make the job. We went completely paperless, and we also went from having 8 users to having 1,100 users.
Wow.
During that time that when I'm wandering the halls muttering code to myself, that I had the epiphany that I really like working on FileMaker databases. So I took a gulp and took a breath and started looking to see if there was anyone crazy enough to hire me to work on FileMaker databases all day, because I didn't think this was a job at all. And it turns out there was such a crazy idiot. I showed up in Burbank at a place called Angel City Data and had this very open kimono interview with Dave Knight. I showed him my solution and he showed me Nimbus. And I remember just being awestruck by the graph going, whoa, you can do that? You can make it colorful and clean and organized. And he invited me to come to this group. And I did faithfully for a number of months, and it blew my mind every single time I was there. I felt like my head was so full when I was leaving that I just had to go like dump it somewhere. So that was great. I eventually did get hired at an IT firm that did some FileMaker development, and I stayed there for about 4 years, and then I struck out on my own. So that was 9.5 years ago.
All right. Well, that's definitely a success story. I think a lot of people who get into FileMaker like that, the hard part is turning it into a business. That's a heavy lift. Wouldn't you agree?
I think so. And again, I wasn't looking to turn it into a business. I just wanted to be somewhere where I could do the thing, where I could do the puzzle making, just as like the 8-year-old kid who's got the pattern and putting all these different jigsaw pieces together. It's that same kind of, I think, mental exercise that is really fun. Picking it apart, adding a new piece, seeing if it works, having it talk back to you, really fun stuff. So being a business owner wasn't originally part of the plan. Being part of a team that did it was very interesting to me, and it still is. And on the occasions where I get those opportunities to collaborate with people, I really cherish that.
Excellent. Where do you see FileMaker going from here, and Claris in general, in the near future and in the far future?
Oh my gosh, that's such a loaded question, especially after sitting on this meeting and listening to Rick Kallman give his observations on things. It seems like this little DIY database app has really matured into something very different. And while I'd like to entertain that it is a DIY app, it really isn't anymore. It's really an app for developers. And so I've seen a lot of effort put into making FileMaker a better tool for this community, for developers, which obviously I appreciate. I also see a lot of effort being put into making it more cloud accessible rather than, just local software accessible. I have some concerns about that because I have a number of clients who are just very adamantly, nope, we're on-prem. We are always going to be on-prem, and that's just how we're going to roll. So I think it's important to really consider the value of that for people who find that incredibly important, especially in, dovetailing off of Chris's tech news roundup, which always has some very scary elements that are very enlightening and very important.
We all come here every month to be terrified by Chris.
Yeah, thank goodness. Thank goodness. I always have some fun story to share out after listening to Chris's tech news roundup. I was also very happy to hear Rick talking about how important the old DevCon format was, where we were all in the same place. And I think he used a 60-40 ratio, that it's really just 40% about the content and the sessions and 60% about the networking and socialization. So looking forward to seeing what that will yield in terms of the next conference that Claris puts on in 2027.
Yeah, I always find that those conferences, like Rick was mentioning, they leave me feeling kind of energized. And sometimes I get that, quite often, most of the time, I think I get that from FMDiSC as well. There's always something, some little, even if it's just a little tidbit, or maybe it's an entire presentation. It, what do you think about semantic search? Do you feel like after watching Matt's presentation, there might be a little more use for that than you thought?
I have one client who's interested in it. None of my clients have stepped forward screaming, "We want AI." But there's one client, and they're in Palo Alto. So of course they're, anybody who's not in the Bay Area and maybe is in LA, where you see billboards about the next movie coming up here, it's, the next AI thing. It's just everywhere. So they've expressed some interest in maybe implementing some AI, but the value for them would probably only be in the reporting, and which semantic search could be really incredibly helpful. But I don't think they want to work as hard as they're going to have to work to get a correct or a reliable result. So I just, I'm sitting on the sidelines, kind of watching how all of this goes and seeing what we'll get. Because even in Matt's presentation, I thought it was so interesting that every time he did the search, it was yielding a slightly different answer. So while that's really fun for people like us to puzzle together, I can see in particular this client just going, that's not what we want.
Yeah, that's a good take. It's still in its infancy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So we're all learning together, aren't we?
We are learning together. And there was a meeting a couple months ago. Is it the fellas from Harmonic Data? Are they from Alabama, Arkansas? There's somewhere over there.
Dallas.
Dallas. Okay. I thought that was a really great presentation, and especially the fact that they said, look, we're all learning this together. Nobody has the pinnacle answer or the correct answer yet. So it does feel like we're all kind of in the same pool trying to figure it out. And that's good, but I don't feel ready to jump off any high dives with it yet.
I don't blame you. So what else do you want us to know? What would you like our takeaway from this little talk to be, if anything? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that question.
Oh, I would say if you are a person who possesses double X chromosomes and you think you might have something you want to present, contact me. Since my invitation to the board, I have been working behind the scenes even before the announcement, just trying to dust off some old contacts with women from WIT FM. I actually just had an interesting interview with a young female developer yesterday, and we bounced around a couple of ideas, some things that she's thinking about, and just kind of brainstorming about how that could turn into a presentation. So yes, I want to talk to people, especially women. Not that, I'm anti-men because I'm talking to you and you're lovely.
Thank you.
But this meeting, as I look at the participants list, it still is, it's very male heavy. And I know there's plenty of women out there that Dave, Bob is lovely. There's plenty of women out there who have some interesting technical stuff that they're working on, and it might be small and maybe they don't think it's that big of a deal, but the thing that you don't think is that big of a deal may be a problem that everybody is trying to solve.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight and a wonderful thing to do. Because I think you're right that ratio wise, it's not even by a long shot. And part of that's the industry itself, I think, and part of that is just this community too. But it doesn't have to be that way, and we all know that. So thank you for that outreach. That's gonna prove to be very valuable over time, I think.
I hope so.
All right. Well, I think it's time to wrap things up here. Thank you, Elizabeth, very much. It's
Thank
nice
you.
getting to know you better.
Thank you, Bob and Lynn and Dave, and for the invitation. And I hope to meet the bar.
You're already doing so. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back over to you, Matt.
All right. So look at that. We ended maybe even a little bit earlier than the schedule, I thought. Ending a little bit early gives us a little bit of time for conversation if people want to have that. Otherwise, we can just kind of wrap things here and be off till next month. Do we have any thoughts about that? Any conversation that didn't get completed?
I was just going to say, I'm grateful for all of you doing the work and presenting and keeping this going. Thank you so much.
This has been such a great meeting for so many years. Going once, going twice. Oh, contact. How do people contact Elizabeth? Elizabeth, you want to chime in?
I'm going to put that in the chat. Thank you for asking, Stephen.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Does Elizabeth have any presentations under her belt that you think you'd like to do?
Oh, I've presented at this meeting several times.
Oh, yeah, I'm not here every month.
I don't know that I have anything right now.
Okay. But I will look.
All right. Well, thank you, Rick. That's a very kind question.
I have a question. Matt, how's your house coming along?
Surprisingly well, even though I would definitely recommend no one ever building a house in Greece. Since construction started, it's going really well. They're putting plaster on the walls and building the interior walls, and they're still planning on moving in April. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks for asking. And now everybody knows I'm building a house in Greece. I did mention to not do that, right?
No.
I promise not to do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
I imagine that buying those €1 houses in Italy are a bad idea as well.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I mean, if it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is. Yeah, those are the ones where you have to like commit to staying there and to fixing up the house and like being in the community for a while.
I think what it is you have to be committed to spending 50,000 euro on upgrading the house within the first year or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, I can say that moving to a foreign country and living in a smallish village is amazing in ways that you might not realize. And that would be, I think, is a very similar situation to those villages in Italy. And that, well, and I guess the other thing that comes along with like building a house comes along with permanent residency in Europe and eventually EU passport. And I think that's the same very attractive deal with buying those houses in Italy. So any more things, AI stuff or otherwise?
Thanks, Matt. It's been a great meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for all the contributors.
All right, and the recording here, and I'll stick around for a couple of minutes for anybody who has anything to debrief.